Welcome, everyone, to episode 461 of the Concealed Carry Podcast. Jacob and I here, obviously, for this episode today. Excited to be with y'all. And real quick, because we're not going to mention it in the recorded part, the audio part, if you will, of the show. I didn't tell you this, Jacob, but to me, it just makes sense for our live people right now. Black Friday sale coming up tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight for GN members, and Friday for everybody else, and it goes through Monday.
Correct. And everything is Mountain Time. So 12 a.m. Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, tomorrow, the sale starts at Mountain Time. Sale starts for Guardian Nation members. And then 12 a.m. Mountain Time Friday morning for everybody else.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Riley, I know you're not directly involved with the planning of our Black Friday sale, but did you look at the flyer?
Yep, I did. There's a lot of stuff, and the flyer looks great. I did get a comment from somebody asking why something wasn't on there. And I thought, I don't know.
Well, if I knew what the thing was, I could tell you why it's not on there since I made the list. I decided what to put on there myself.
It was somebody asking about Cool Fire Trainer.
Oh, yeah, it's not on there because we can only discount it so much before we start going negative on the deal. That's the answer. There's not much room.
Well, I figured, but and I have no idea what our margin is on those, but apparently it's not very good.
not good enough to make it awesome. So, hi, Jared. Hi, Dale. Hi, Al. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Curtis.
Well, hey, $5 is $5. Maybe we give people $5 off.
I suppose I could have done that.
Maybe
the other thing I'd have to check, I don't know this on the Cool Fire Trainer. I'd have to email those dudes, but the other thing we have to be careful is minimum advertised price agreements. And so I don't know if they allow us to put it on sale. I'd have to check. I think we have done a sale with it. Like I know I got special permission from them to put it on sale when we did our big dry fire sale a couple months ago. So I think I would have had to have asked as well for Black Friday, but yeah. That said, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, we got tons of holsters. We got holsters from Brave Response, Crossbreed, Stealth Gear, 1791 gun leather, lots of lights, a lot more lights than ever before. I added we have a new Surefire that we sell. The 6PX Tactical Pro is new to our sale and new to us as well. The X300 Ultra from Surefire is also new in our sale. That's 16% off. That's a pretty good deal. We got some new shirts, new apparel. We have a Christmas sweater T-shirt. I need to order one myself.
Oh yeah. Cool. Well, there you go, guys. For those of you watching here live, just in time that tonight for Guardian Nation members at midnight Mountain Time, and then tomorrow night at midnight Mountain Time, everybody else, Black Friday sale begins. You can go to concealedcarry.com/Black Friday to see the sale, to see the sales flyer, see what all is being offered. And I think many of you will be pleased with some of the things that are offered. And like, there's stuff on there that you won't find cheaper anywhere else. I can tell you that much. And there's other things you'll go, oh, that's a discount, maybe not as awesome as you would like it to be. Just know that we do everything we can to get the prices it's either as low as we are allowed to advertise them, or it's as low as we can go before we lose money. And there may even be some things on there we may be losing money on. Who knows? I don't know.
There's 3 items I know. Like I won't say what the 3 items are because then you all go buy them. But there's 3 items on there that I put the sales flyer together, handed off to a design team, and then afterwards I was checking the numbers like, oh crap, we're gonna lose money on these 3 items. But it was too late. It was already in the flyer.
There you go. Well, anyway, guys, we appreciate your support of us in allowing us to continue doing what we do and bring things like the podcast here to you. Today is our legislative news show, so we will be talking about some news, some legislative update stories and I look forward to getting into that with Jacob. So I think without further ado, we kick off the recorded audio part of the show. What do you say?
Game on.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, episode number 461. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network. I am your host, Riley Bowman. I've only said that about a gazillion times, 400 and some odd. Today I've got with me Jacob Paulsen, the man that has been with me from the beginning.
But I've not that many times, though.
Not 400 something, that's true.
No.
But quite a few, hundreds of times still. Yes. Yes, sir. We are excited to be doing this episode today because, well, first of all, you should know that we're recording this the day before Thanksgiving, and I love Thanksgiving. I think I almost like Thanksgiving more than Christmas, almost. I also love Christmas, mostly because my kids love Christmas. But I will say, kind of a funny story. My daughter, one year, it was Thanksgiving Day, and she said, no, it was the day before Thanksgiving. And she said, today is the best day ever. And we're like, oh, okay, but tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So what does that make tomorrow? The next day? So apparently the day before Thanksgiving is the best day ever.
It's a new Bowman tradition.
I don't remember what the whole context of that was now, but it was pretty funny. We had a good laugh about it. Anyway, we hope everybody out there has or had, if you're catching this after the fact, a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Today's episode, we're covering legislative news updates. Got some updates from the Supreme Court. And this is actually an update on a story we covered just last week. And last week we said this case was tabled, and so now there's an update to that story. So we'll cover that here momentarily. We got dudes getting in trouble for selling wall hangers online. We'll explain what that is and what's going on with that particular case. We're going to talk about what the future in America could look like as far as your gun rights and particularly things like gun taxes and also the ever popular pistol braces. We'll cover all kinds of things here today on this episode. You won't want to miss it. Stick around. The episode is sponsored and brought to you by CCW Safe. We are proud to have CCW Safe as on board and as partners of the Concealed Carry Podcast. Guys, I'm a member of CCW Safe. Jacob's a member of CCW Safe. I don't believe that there is a better self-defense coverage program out there. And so, yeah, you guys should check out CCW Safe. Don't we have a podcast listeners discount, Jacob?
Yes, we do.
Podcast, I think it is. Yeah. See, you're like me. Like this sort of thing is not always at the forefront of our mind, but
CC Podcast, all one word. CCPODCAST coupon code will save you 10% off, I think, of your CCW Safe coverage. And a comment here from a live viewer. Randy says he switched to CCW Safe today. Good job, Randy.
You are a wise man, Randy. And I'll just say there's some really exciting things coming from CCW Safe and us. Okay, there's cool stuff happening. All right. Don't know what that all looks like yet, but it's going to be great no matter what. Yeah, I can't say much more than that, can I, Jacob?
No. No, you cannot.
Well, hopefully, guys take me seriously when I say that I don't believe there's a finer coverage program out there, and proud to be a member of CCW Safe. Other sponsor of today's episode is our Legal Boundaries by State book. We always recommend you pick up a copy of those. Now is a good time of the year. Many of you might be on the road for holiday travel or whatever it is, and that's the perfect road companion or travel companion, is knowing and having at your fingertips a 50-state guide of gun-related and carry laws, as well as other great information and tips and articles and things that are basically compiled in the back half of that book, talking about hotels and restaurants and air travel and all kinds of other travel. So, guys, pick up a copy of The Legal Boundaries by State today. You have the option of either the online PDF version of it and also the paper copy, or both. So, check it out. Conceal. Oh, did I mention the CCW Safe website? I don't think I did. People should know it though. ccwsafe.com, right?
Yeah, I think that the average podcast listener today is capable of using Google, but I don't know.
Anyway, back to The Legal Boundaries by State. I was just reminded of about to give the link that I don't think I gave CCW Safes one, but the link for the book in case you need it, concealedcarry.com/gun law book. All right.
One final thought there. Members of Guardian Nation save 20% off CCW Safe membership, and
yes,
members of Guardian Nation get a free copy of Legal Boundaries by State book and ebook.
That's a great point.
So if either of those sound good, you should probably just go to guardiannation.com and check that out too.
You know it. You better believe it. Awesome. Glad that Randy has switched over to CCW Safe and got the discount. That's great too. And Curtis going to be maybe switching over to CCW Safe. Awesome stuff, guys. Let's get into today's stories. First up, this according to Gallup.com, and Gallup is known for doing all kinds of polls, which first thing I'm going to say is as of late, they're not particularly accurate on some of the election stuff, but they've been doing
traditionally, they do better than most.
Yeah. They've been doing a poll since 1990 that's called Americans' Preferences for Gun Laws. And so, and I've seen this chart numerous times. We've reported on this before on the podcast. And basically what this is they started this poll back in 1990 when, and the result of people that wanted more strict gun control has never been higher than 1990 when they first did the poll, which was 78% of people saying that they believed that gun laws should be made more strict.
Yeah, the specific question asked people is, in general, do you feel that the laws covering the sale of firearms should be more strict, less strict, or kept as they are now?
Yep, that's the question that's asked. And so in 1990, 78% said yes, more strict. 17% said kept as they are, and 2% said less strict. That's interesting. Fast forward through the years, and you see a lot of ups and downs. And in the kind of 2010 to 2012 era, the respondents to this poll that said more strict or kept as they are were about equal. But since 2012, we've seen an uptick, and as of late, a slight downtick in those that believe gun laws should be made more, or the sale of firearms and those laws should be made more strict. Right now, the latest report here is that 57% of Americans believe the laws covering the sale of firearms should be made more strict. 34% say kept as they are, and 9% say made less strict. Well, I guess I'm in the 9%.
We'll talk more about demographics here in a moment, because I think the demographic data here is really interesting. But I think the takeaway, like the obvious assumption that someone would make without knowing anything else, is that in 2020 we've not had any high-profile mass shootings / killings, and we've had a lot of riots, and gun ownership is at all-time high. We introduced 6 million new gun owners in this country this year. So all those things would point toward the general public feeling probably being more pro-gun than anti-gun. Now that said, remember that the specific question that is being asked, that in theory people actually listen to what they're being asked when they answer, is, do you feel that the laws covering the sale of firearms should be made more strict, less strict, kept as now? So that's something to think about, because a person could be super pro-gun and still think that the laws covering the sale of firearms should be made more strict in their opinion, right? Like they may not see those two things as being at odds, right? Being pro 2A and still thinking that laws regarding the sale of a firearm should be strict. But anyway, moving off of that, the demographic data in here is quite interesting. And particularly for me, Riley, it's the gender data that really caught my eye.
Yeah. And what did you find there?
So guys, check this out. if you break this up by gender, you took all the respondents and you just look at men only, it actually really balances out pretty significantly. At that point, only 46%, less than half of people, think the laws should be more strict. 15% say less strict, and 39% say leave it alone, keep it as it is now. But then you look at women, and it's completely different. 67% of women think more strict. So put differently, women are significantly more likely than men to think that we need stricter laws regarding the sale of firearms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So what I would like to see, and I'm sure I could dig this info up if I, actually spent the time and went digging for it, which I have not. I'd like to see what the demographics of the participants, as far as percentages of those that were more urban versus suburban versus rural versus male versus female, as far as who was actually responding to these questions. Because I have no idea. So, yeah. The other interesting thing is that says that 22% of Republicans believe in more strict, 60% of independents, 85% of Democrats, whereas Republicans, 16% of them feel it should be less strict, and only 2% of Democrats. Basically, the Democratic registered voters are a lot more, and they're a lot more anti-gun as far as wanting more strict laws than the Republicans are probably pro-gun and wanting less gun laws.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting split there.
Yep, and here's a big shocker: people who own guns are less likely to think we need stricter gun laws.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's move on. By the way, I don't totally think that that's exactly where America is settled on the matter, but I could be biased in my view of that. That's certainly possible. Let's see. BearingArms.com reports the Supreme Court of the United States accepts case dealing with warrantless gun seizures. Matthew and I talked about this case last week, reported on it briefly. This is the case known as Caniglia versus Strum. And this is the one out of was it Rhode Island. That's right. A little tiny state that Jacob's been to, and I have not, which just kind of makes me a little bit jealous, although I don't know that there's a whole lot to see in Rhode Island. Are you frozen, Jacob? I think he's frozen.
Rhode Island.
No comeback.
I think I'm
What's
back.
that? Okay, you're back.
I'm back now. So Rhode Island is actually quite gorgeous and old and stuff. Anyway, here's the deal. This case doesn't really seem to me to have anything to do with guns, frankly. Like, it has everything to do with search and seizure. And the question really being debated is whether or not under certain circumstances, law enforcement has the right to perform a search and seize things that they find. And so in this case, if I understand, and while I was frozen, you might have already said this, but dude and wife have argument. Wife leaves. Wife calls cops a day or two later and says, "Hey, can you go check on my husband? I haven't heard from him in a few days. We had a little falling out." Cops show up and check on husband. Cops say, "Hey, we think that you need to go get a mental health check. And if you don't go to the hospital right now, then we're going to seize your guns." And the guy's like, "Oh, I don't want you to seize my guns, so I will voluntarily go to the hospital." He does. The hospital says, "You're fine," and they release him. And he goes home to find out that the cops did, in fact, take his guns.
Yep. Yeah.
So it comes down to whether or not that was a lawful search and seizure of his firearms.
Yep. Yes, that's exactly right. This being more of a Fourth Amendment case than a Second Amendment one, but Second Amendment is related in that they were guns that were seized. So there's that additional aspect as well. In other words, the property that was seized is something that is protected under the Constitution in its own space. This wasn't like, his PlayStation was taken. That doesn't have, a specific amendment protecting it. Anyway, so here's what we know. The Supreme Court is going to hear the case. That's what we're reporting to you here today. It doesn't mean that there's any ruling or anything like that, or they haven't even heard the case as far as arguments yet. They've reviewed the case from the lower federal court. They've agreed to hear it, and then we'll see what comes out of it. If there's whether they issue some kind of ruling, that is it kind of creates new precedent or new case law, or if they send it back to a lower court or something else entirely. So,
yep, time will tell.
Yep. Moving on to the third article we have from Firearms Policy, the Firearms Policy Coalition, which you can find them at firearmspolicy.org. This one is really highlighting a couple of things. So I'm going to kind of tackle this in a couple of ways. The first thing is reporting that very shortly after the election, where presumably we have President-elect Joe Biden that will begin transitioning into the White House at some point. Of course, there's still legal challenges and stuff at play with that. But his administration has already begun meeting with the ATF. Here's what I perceive, Jacob, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time in my initial analysis of this. What I perceive is that you have a bunch of Obama-era people that probably came into the ATF under Obama and have risen up through, because I know in the last 5-6 years, there's actually been quite a few somewhat prominent people that worked at the ATF that have retired. And so I perceive you have certain individuals in the ATF that have their own take on what they think the law should be on certain things. We're talking pistol braces, which are the latest thing that are on the chopping block. 80% receivers. Okay, 3D printed guns or receivers as well. All of that is being looked at very closely by the ATF. And it seems to me that they are very anxious to begin communicating with the Biden transition team. Now, I don't know what is typical with past administrations, but it's curious to me, like, that there's plenty of time to begin this transition and have these conversations about these issues. Nothing has to happen overnight, but within days after the election, these talks were being had.
So I appreciate your disclaimer, right? Because I also don't know what's typical. I know that Biden has a transition team, and I suspect it's probably super typical for presidential elect people to have transition teams to do things. And so it would seem likely that transition teams hold meetings with various government agencies to talk about stuff. So to me, I don't read a lot into like a conspiracy that the team had a call with the ATF, like whatever's on that one. Maybe it is unusual. I really wouldn't know. I just, I'm not a Washington swamp, expert. But yeah, what seems very clear from information we have, and there's the source here seems pretty clear that someone spoke to John Crump at Ammo Land about this. He said he had a source that said who was on this call, and specifically that Biden's team discussed that their priorities would be pistol braces and 80% lowers. So yeah, I guess that's my long way of saying I appreciate your disclaimer that could be very typical for those kind of conversations to take place at this time.
Yeah. Now, I know someone's going to take issue at me saying Obama era hires. I don't know. Mark wants to know if I know that for a fact. I don't know that for a fact.
We could tell you who was on the call: Acting Director Regina Lombardo, Deputy Director Marvin Richardson, and Acting Assistant Director of Enforcement Programs and Services Curtis Gilbert. Yep. As to when any of those people, became a thing, and I honestly have no idea.
My perception is that over the last year or so, that there's been quite a bit of there's been a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes at the ATF to go after more gun stuff. Now, whether that is being directed in any way by the Trump administration, or if that is an internal agenda that the ATF has, I'll say based on what's been going on with other agencies like the FBI, it wouldn't surprise me one bit that there is a hidden agenda at the ATF. And to someone else's point, I'd love to see the ATF go away. I'd love to see the NFA go away. I'd love to see all kinds of things go away with regards to gun laws.
I would like to get rid of the bloating. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about pistol braces and 80% lowers.
Here's what I'll tell you about pistol braces. Just real quick, my take. They're going away, bro. Yeah. I think they are coming after them hard.
Whether or not we'll have to like turn them in or they'll just no longer be sold, that'll be kind of probably what's going to go to, that'll be the debate in my opinion. But anyway, for those who don't follow the argument, this is not a change to law, right? The law is from 1934. The National Firearm Act, the NFA. And in 1934, Congress passed a law, and the president, whoever that was at the time, signed the law. And that law defines what a short barrel rifle is. And it makes a short barrel rifle, an SBR, illegal, more or less. And so some time ago, someone said, hey, well, we're going to make pistols with kind of long barrels, and they'll be pistols. And someone else said, well, yeah, but we'll put this pistol brace on it. This pistol brace is kind of designed to wrap, to kind of come off the back of the pistol like a buttstock, but it's not a buttstock. It's it wraps around the forearm and stabilizes it so it's easier for me to shoot, especially one-handed. And someone said, wait a minute, this pistol brace on this pistol, I can just shoulder it like a buttstock on a rifle, and now I have a short-barreled rifle that's actually a pistol and not a short-barreled rifle. And that's the thing. And so for some time, ATF has sided on the side of saying, okay, fine, it's a pistol brace, it doesn't make it an SBR. And if you shoulder it, that's just, I suppose, how you use it, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's gone back and forth, actually.
It has gone back and forth a little bit. It's not been consistent, and the ATF generally doesn't make decisions like that at a broad level. They more often make it on a specific level, right? A manufacturer makes something, sends it to the ATF and says, can I sell this? What is this? The ATF says, for this specific product, here's the decision we make. And then they send it back. And so what you end up often with is several products on the market that are all very similar. And the ATF has said yes to these 10, but no to the 11th one. And so recently, we've already seen before the election, the Q Honey Badger pistol brace product being, they got sent a cease and desist letter from the ATF saying, sorry, this is a no-go, despite it being extremely similar to other products that have been approved. So it's an easy thing to go after if you want to go after them, because it does not require a law change. It just requires a tweak in the way we interpret an existing law in the books.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, the latest thing is SB Tactical has, and actually the letter I think is a bit older than what we realize, but this is just coming to light. SB Tactical has received a letter from the ATF in regards to, SB Tactical is like the biggest manufacturer of pistol braces, and they have tons of different styles of pistol braces. And basically in that letter, there was 23 different pistol braces that were identified as not having received ATF approval, and it specified only 2 models that SB Tactical had, there's only 2 of them that had actually received a specific letter for. Meanwhile, SB Tactical has been essentially advertising that their braces were ATF approved and things of that nature. So that's a whole other interesting set of drama in regards to a specific company and their products. Of course, it's the largest company in terms of manufacturing these pistol brace products. Here's my take. I see Jared's comment about, it hasn't helped that people have posted pictures and videos of them using pistol braces as stocks and how that's created a problem. I don't see that as being the case at all. I think this whole thing, I think everything about this area of the law is outdated. I think it's misguided, and I think all of this is dumb in the first place. Here's the other thing. I wonder about a whole ADA type challenge. ADA is a whole other section of law, right, that governs all kinds of accessibility things for Americans with disabilities. And the way I look at that is really a pistol brace was sold as a means to make it easier for someone, particularly a disabled person. It really started as a solution for some disabled vets that were looking for a way they could use rifles, essentially a rifle, more comfortably, more easily, with better balance, so they could shoot or hunt with those braced firearms. And so thus the door was cracked open to the idea of a pistol brace. And by nature of how a pistol brace functions and operates, it has to have some kind of rigid extension with a piece that is capable of either bracing off of your arm or being attached to your arm. Well, naturally, it works to be able to actually put it against your shoulder and fire it that way as well. I just think the whole thing should go away, as far as and I was actually thinking about you, Mark, as I was thinking about this, that you, yes, you have a disability yourself and you have a legitimate use for that. And I wonder about a whole ADA challenge against any sort of regulation the ATF might hand down in the near future on pistol braces. I think that'd be a really interesting court case. But at the same time, I'd love to take on the NFA and the whole idea of a SBR in the first place. I don't understand the purpose of the law. I don't know how it makes us safer, frankly. So,
yeah, I have no idea. I think it's we got to remember when the law was passed, right? Like 1934, when gangsters were rocking Tommy guns. And we wanted to stop them from running around with Tommy guns. But since then, we've learned a lot about guns. Specifically, like firing one from the hip is not very accurate and ineffective. And spraying bullets around, while it might have been cool in 1930s, gangster Chicago, it's also super ineffective today and gets you, a target on your back from law enforcement. So it's just not a thing today. Like criminals, I mean, maybe I'm naive. Maybe if we got rid of the NFA, then criminals would start spraying bullets around with Tommy guns. But I kind of doubt it. I kind of think it would not affect anything whatsoever. So I'm with you, Riley. But I think that understanding that the law was passed in 1934 and thinking about what was going on at that time leads one to understand why it was passed.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we'll see what happens. I'll tell you one other thing. With regards to the Biden administration, they have put forth some plans with the intent of taxing people with guns. They've made their intent clear that they would like to ban AR-15 style weapons, and then everything else would be registered, where you would have to pay $200 per unit that you register. So let's say you own 10 guns, you would have to pay $2,000 in the form of a fee or tax just to register those 10 guns. And then any magazines over 10 round capacity would also have a $200 per unit tax to register. To me, that is scary stuff right there.
Yeah, and I think that one's much easier to challenge. Like, I don't see them getting away with that one as easily. I think getting rid of pistol braces, or at least making it so we can no longer shoulder them, low-hanging fruit. I think that going after the 80% lowers, not as low-hanging fruit, but still on the chopping block. But throwing high-capacity magazines at some arbitrary level into the NFA, that's not low-hanging fruit. That's going to be a battle.
I agree with that. I think about the 80% receiver thing, and I've said this before. It's fascinating to me that could even be considered as low-hanging fruit, because like it has been American since the beginning. It's been legal to manufacture your own firearm for your own personal use.
Well, but I mean, but that's the thing. Like, we can't think of this in binary world of like either you can or you can't. Just like pistol braces, it's not like they have to go away. It might just be you can't shoulder them anymore. So, and the same thing with an 80% lower, it might just be that now you must serialize them. Right? That would be a simple, like, it doesn't have to be binary. But my point is, I'm not saying what's going to happen. I'm saying that there's lots of potential outcomes here. That the only outcomes are not either nothing changes or they're gone completely. There's other potential outcomes.
None of the outcomes are good.
No, I don't disagree. I just want to make sure that we all understand that it's not binary. There's a lot of potential things that could come of that.
And it's fair to acknowledge that, and Mark says ATF can't do all of that. In referencing the whole registration and taxing scheme, that is true. Biden would need the Senate, but the Senate's not totally decided yet either. So,
Well, if you can interpret something to already be part of the existing NFA. If you can interpret something to already be part of the existing NFA, then tax stamp is already applied, right? And that's where the pistol braces come to play.
Well, I think Mark was talking about the taxing
sure.
part, as far as like gun registration.
But we already pay a tax to register an NFA item.
But the other Biden plan, which is to register and tax basically have to register everything you own.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that's a different game. Yeah. I misunderstood.
Yeah, no. By the way, momentary pause or break for this. Oh wait. Wow, that one's on there. Good, Jacob. Maybe this is a.
As I recall, you made fun of me for something very similar very recently.
Not a twist top. This is not a twist top. This actually requires a bottle opener.
Okay.
Oh man.
So what I'm actually didn't see that.
Attempting to open a bottle of Round Barn root beer. And Jacob and I saw the Round Barn in Arcadia, Oklahoma. And I have the official Round Barn root beer, which I'm going to have a taste here as soon as I find a bottle opener.
Okay, check out the label and see where it was actually made. Like, did they make the Round Bar Arcadia, Oklahoma root beer in Florida or something stupid?
Brewed and bottled by OKC Soda Company, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73114.
Okay, well, that's not too bad then.
Legit.
But all right, it was pretty funny to see you try and open that thing and you were unable to.
I was surprised. And then I'm like, oh, wait, there's no threads on that bottle cap. All right, Jacob.
Or it's a cop out for you not being able to open it either way.
That's fair. Jacob, give us a rundown on this article from journal-news.net, a story out of Martinsburg. I don't remember the state, but this is ransom man alleged to have sold illegal gun parts across 46 states.
I presume Ransom is the city he lives in, because otherwise this doesn't make sense. So this man from Ransom is arrested by federal authorities because he has an online retail store where he sells these 3D printed parts that he apparently advertises as wall hangers. However, they're not really intended to be as wall hangers, or he's extremely naive because what people do with them is they use them to...
He's not naive.
He's not naive. I've given him the benefit of the doubt. These are allegations. Okay? No, he knows. So at portablewallhanger.com, you buy this 3D printed wall hook, supposedly, made with two pieces. And then when you disassemble them, one of those two pieces functions as an illegal drop-in auto sear, which effectively converts a carbine rifle from semi-automatic into fully automatic. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't make them and sell them. That's so he's in big trouble. And we see about once or twice a year we get an article like this. Somebody making something either stupidly, they probably like do it once, like that was so cool. They're like, wait, I can sell some of these, and so once or twice a year we find someone who gets the beat down from the ATF for doing something like this.
Yeah. I mean, this is playing with fire. I think this guy knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, if you read some other articles about this out there online, there's documented communications where it was very apparent this guy knew what he was selling, knew what he was doing, knew what the intent was, but he was doing everything he could to make it seem as innocuous as possible and fly under the radar. But you know what? We just got done talking about the ATF, and those guys ain't dummies over there. And somebody over there got wind of this, and I tell you what, how this sort of thing probably comes to light if it's not sent to them in some way, or if they don't stumble upon it in some way, is if a gun were seized as part of some kind of seizure or in the commission of a crime, and maybe one of these parts are installed, and they start going, well, wait, where did this come from, and start running things down. What I know is that they initially started trying to find who this person was behind selling these, and it wasn't that hard, because the other thing about this guy playing with fire that indicates he was probably not most intelligent is, here's a little tip. Not that I'm trying to give you legal advice or advice how to break the law, but I'll tell you what, if you're gonna do something kind of fishy or a little bit off color or whatever, borderline gray area with the law, maybe don't consider registering the domain name for the business that you're creating in your own name. Just a tip, just a little hint. Because that's how like once they found the website, they just checked the registry and they're like, boom, got him.
Wow. It's $10 a year for domain privacy. Just FYI.
Exactly. Exactly. Again, to be clear, not advocating for any breaking of the law, fellas. Anyway, this dude's host, he's gonna, maybe there's some kind of settlement that comes out of this, depending on how good of an attorney he could hire to help him out, but he's probably hosed. So yeah, sketchy is the term. Thank you, Jared. All right. Speaking of which, I did find a bottle opener. And so Round Barn Root Beer, having a sip.
And?
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's very homemade, tasty, like kind of has that small batch homemade kind of flavor.
Pretty dark or pretty light?
Medium dark.
We are not the kind of people you want to invite to a party. We are so boring. Yeah.
Like Randy's commenting about our different happy hour beverage choices.
You should see the looks. The looks me and Riley get in restaurants. When some poor wait staff comes up to the table and asks, hands us a wine list, mentions 25 different beers on tap and says, what would you like? And we say, what brand of root beer do you have? Oh man, those poor suckers. Oh man. All right. Okay. But apparently the takeaway is if you build a barn in a round circle shape, then that becomes a landmark, and the schools will send kids there to tour the thing.
And you can have your very own brand
of root beer. Yeah, that's right. Because you have a round barn.
Yeah. All right. Delaware. Court strikes down ban on hunting with semi-autos. I'm going to run over this pretty fast, Jacob. You can add anything else you'd like. Basically, it sounds like the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, the department in the state of Delaware that regulates hunting, that apparently between last year and this year's hunting season, they just out of the blue decided to ban semi-automatic rifles as an option for hunting. And so people said, whoa, wait, where is this in the law? Like, you guys are just making up regulation on a state level. People weren't happy. And so the DNREC was sued by the Delaware State Sportsmen's Association, and a federal court has ruled, the Delaware Superior Court has ruled in favor of the Delaware State Sportsmen's Association, meaning that they have struck down the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control regulation that banned semi-automatic rifles as being viable options for hunting. There you go. Anything else, Jacob?
No, I think that there's probably more backstory, and I was trying to understand it and read it, but I think you got the gist.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gist. All right. Give us, I know you had to look into this one a little bit because this was news to you, but tell us about this BuckeyeFirearms.org website article from Buckeye Firearms Association. Ohio Senate passes Senate Bill 317 to allow armed school staff. Okay. What's the gist on this?
So this bill, I think, still has to go to the House, if I'm not mistaken. So to be
Yeah.
clear to anyone who's from Ohio, this is not a done deal. Though it did pass the Senate with a vote 21-11. So it looks like it has pretty good support, at least in the Senate. So here's the deal. Here, if what I can gather is true, and Matthew, he's from Ohio, he could tell us, but basically what you do is you have a school district, Madison School District in Butler County, which decides to put certain staff through a training program known as Faster Saves Lives, fastersaveslives.org. This is a program that's been gaining a lot of momentum over the last many years, and it's specifically designed for this thing. Like, it's a very purpose-driven program to prepare staff of a school to be able to be armed at that school. So this school district in Butler County, Madison School District, they decide to permit some staff to be armed after they complete this training program. Well, apparently, someone doesn't like that very much. So a group of parents supported by Everytown for Gun Safety, which is a Mike Bloomberg anti-gun, well-funded organization, they sue, they file a lawsuit, okay, against, I don't know who, the school district or somebody, and say, no, you can't do that. And basically the gist of this, if I'm picking up what's been put down, is the lawsuit says, if you do this, if you arm these staff, then effectively they are like cops and they have to pass the same kind of qualification standards that a police officer or a peace officer would have to pass, which is 700 hours of training and who knows whatever else other thing. So then that's a problem. And Madison School District's like, suck. Okay, problem. We don't know what to do. So then now what we have is we have some legislators saying, okay, fine. Like, you want to play hardball? We'll just pass a law. And so that's what this new law is. Ohio Senate Bill 317 basically says, no. They're not peace officers. They don't have to pass the same training that peace officers have to pass. They can just, like, it's up to the school district. If the school district wants to have armed staff, like, Merry Christmas, you are empowered to do so. Have a nice day.
Yeah. And I would say that if this gets to the House, it looks very promising in terms of the as far as Governor DeWine signing it, because he's already issued guidance in the past supporting programs like this. So anyway, if you are an Ohio resident, I think this is a good thing. You might consider contacting your House representatives in Ohio and ask that they support Senate Bill 317. I think teachers armed in schools is absolutely a viable solution. The thing I've said this before, that it just boggles my mind, Jacob, is we hold teachers up as some of the most trusted people in society. We trust them with our children to teach and educate them. And then we're like, but no, we don't trust you to do something that might potentially save lives.
Well, yeah, that's super valid. Here's like my freak out on this one. My freak out on this one is we perceive that, people like you and me, Riley, like the people listening to this podcast, that we're all like hillbilly Joes who don't know how to shoot a gun, and we're just stuffing them in our pants and walking around. But cops, those cops, they got so much training that they, that they're okay to have guns. It's like, what? Like, that just blows my mind. Everyone is as good with a gun as they want to be, cop or not. And that's the takeaway. And so for this school district in Ohio to say, we're going to put people through some training that's purpose built for this very thing, and if you go through that training, we think you're good enough. I don't understand what the issue is with that.
Yep. That FASTER program is a great program. And in fact, a couple of good friends of mine locally here that are law enforcement officers are actually instructors and put on programs for teachers right here in Colorado for some of those more rural school districts that are able to have armed staff here in Colorado. I'm thankful for that. And I'll tell you, these friends of mine speak very highly of the curriculum of this FASTER program. I see no problem here. So carry on. All right. Pennsylvania. On to Pennsylvania state news. AmmoLand.com reports Senate gives final approval to state of emergency bills. Basically, what we have here are two bills, both House bills. One is 2440, the other one is 1747. These have actually, so the Senate has voted on these. Both of these have been passed on a 29-20 vote. And my understanding is these are going to the governor's office now at this point. In fact, the ask here is that you contact Pennsylvania State Governor Tom Wolf and encourage him to sign both of these bills. Now, what are these bills? House Bill 2440 designates shooting ranges, sportsman clubs, hunting facilities, and business relating to the sale or production of firearms and ammunition as life-sustaining. So it's just categorizing under state law that anything basically gun-related business-wise is essential business. House Bill 1747 would prevent state and local governments from suspending or limiting the sale, dispensing, or transportation of firearms. I hope it also includes ammunition. Doesn't really say that, though. During a declared emergency. It would also remove carry provisions, or carry prohibitions that exist at times with exemptions. So it just kind of reminds me of, anytime I see something like this, reminds me of like Hurricane Katrina, right? So you had a natural disaster, a disaster declaration, or emergency declaration, and with that, police. Now this was totally wrong in the case of Hurricane Katrina, in my opinion. Police actually went in and like seized firearms from folks. And there's been other times that similar things have been attempted in other jurisdictions. So this is basically saying firearm-related businesses are always considered essential, regardless of what's going on. So if we have another COVID crisis, we have essential businesses only allowed to be open. Firearm businesses are protected in that. And secondarily to that, jurisdictions, local and state governments cannot keep people from being able to buy or sell guns. So...
Yep. If any sort of emergency situation, keep your mitts off the gun world. That's the takeaway here. And It sounds like that Pennsylvania, despite whatever else you might think about the state, the representatives of the House and the Senate feel strongly enough that that's a good idea.
Yep. Final story out of this is from the Washington Free Beacon, freebeacon.com. This is covering a story out of Montana, where, and I feel like we talked about this on the podcast at one time, some number of episodes ago, but there was this big ballot referendum in the state of Montana that did pass. This is in the favor of Second Amendment rights. Okay, so basically the way that what this was is you had anti-gun organizations spending tons of money trying to make it so that this ballot referendum wouldn't pass. And what this referendum is all about is essentially restricting state and other local, preventing local governments, so cities and counties, from creating gun law that's more restrictive than the state or federal law. So this is a preemption statute, if you will. And this ballot initiative or ballot referendum did in fact pass in the state of Montana. So that will become law. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. I think it's a good thing just purely for this is another balance of check and balance kind of thing, where the argument can be made either way. But what is definitely true is that we're now today in 2020 in a world where people travel a lot and we're constantly crossing state lines, not to mention city and county lines. And at very least, I think it's reasonable that within a state, I should not have to burden myself with finding out whether or not the gun laws vary from this city to that city, from this municipality to that municipality. I should have some degree of confidence that if I've researched the state law and I've endeavored to do everything reasonable I can to follow it, that I'm not going to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, think about all the things we have, even in the legal boundaries by state book, right? Where in certain states, you're like, well, this is the law statewide, but in Lincoln, Nebraska, or Omaha, Nebraska, or in Chicago, Illinois, or whatever, there's these other laws, right?
Mhm.
Like, beware of this when you're in this jurisdiction. How burdensome that is on gun owners it's insane. I think so. I'm a big believer in government that's closest to the people is usually the most effective government. But there's certain things, particularly constitutionally protected Bill of Rights types things. Second Amendment is what I'm referring to, obviously, especially so here in this context, that I think should be protected very clearly and standardized for everybody.
Well, here's a beautiful thing that I think is really cool about this
Yeah.
legislation is these preemption statutes. Generally, what they do not say is you cannot pass any firearm laws. What they generally say is you can't pass any laws that are more restrictive than the state
Mhm.
laws, which I think is quite clever because what that means is that if a local municipality wants to be more generous, more liberal about their gun laws, they can. They just can't be more restrictive than the state. And I
Yeah.
think that's rather unique and kind of clever thing about these preemption statutes. That's pretty consistent across most states that have a preemption
Mhm.
statute.
Yeah. Which supposedly we have one in Colorado, but not.
Yeah, it's pretty weak. Yeah. But you can always go to concealedcarry.com/laws and click on any state. And within that summary of state laws, you'll see whether or not that state has some sort of preemption
Mhm.
statute or preemption practice in place.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. That's a great resource. Yes, of course, there's all kinds of resources available for free at concealedcarry.com. And of course, don't forget about a reciprocity map. That's also there. That's such a clever, nifty tool of ours. The legal summaries is great. Yes, a lot of that information is that is in the legal boundaries by state book is also on the website. But we worked really hard to make that legal boundaries by state book really helpful, intuitive, easy to reference, easy to just throw in the car and the truck and have with you at all times, even if you don't have cell service. And yeah, plus by buying legal boundaries by state book, you support us, which is awesome.
At the end of the day, people want what they want. So if you're a person
Yep.
who loves apps, like go download our app. All the legal information's in there. If you're a person who
Yep.
wants a website, bonus, all that info is on our website. Go to the website, click on laws. If you're the person who wants a book and millions of books like this get sold every year, fine, no problem. We put it in a book. Go buy the book. The book also happens to have 30 other pages of valuable and useful information that's not legal reference material, but it is all about how to interpret the law and some other things too. So anyway, that's the story of the book. Yep.
Yep. And like we said at the beginning of the episode, Legal Boundaries by State Book is a sponsor of today's episode, but also so is CCW Safe. And before I forget, I'm going to say ccwsafe.com. We mentioned in the beginning of the episode, guys, use the discount code CC Podcast to save 10% off a CCW Safe membership. And if you're interested in saving more, well, join Guardian Nation and save more. So, and we know our Guardian Nation members are really appreciative of that benefit as well as with many other benefits and more stuff to come. All right. So excited. Jacob, and I know you're excited too. We are so excited about the year 2021, guys. Number one, because hopefully it means we get out of this coronavirus pandemic crap. Number two, because there's some cool stuff coming in 2021. Stay tuned.
Super cool stuff.
So that brings us to a conclusion of another fine Concealed Carry podcast episode. We'll bid Jacob adieu and a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Riley.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
You're welcome.
I'm looking forward to the day off and just being totally focused on my family. So, guys, everyone take care out there. Be safe wherever you are. Be good practitioners of concealed carry and also of the law. We believe in being good citizens and not jeopardizing our Second Amendment rights any more than they already are. So, guys, until next time, we'll be back here next week with more content from the podcast. A reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard fight fast, and fight true. Take care.